may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, boys, I am very excited to announce that we have a new microphone. Hopefully, y'all can tell a difference. Hopefully, I don't just sound exactly how I used to. If so, let's switch it back to the old mic so I don't have to be on top of one the entire video. But the reason we got a new microphone is because we have had a ridiculous amount of support over on Patreon as of late. So I owe a serious thank you to everyone who has decided to support the show on Patreon. And of course, if you can't support the show on Patreon, you're supporting it just by being subscribed to the channel, just by leaving likes, leaving comments. That truly makes a difference. But because we've seen all that support, what I've decided to do is for our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, as well as our 2021 Rookie Dynasty Draft Guide, both of those guides are going to be available through Patreon, and they're going to be at no extra cost for the people that are in that Patreon tier. So if you're interested in a draft guide, if you're interested in joining a dynasty league, having me answer your questions all day, also getting your teams graded, really everything, make sure you go down to the link in the description. Make sure you go down to the comment section. I'll leave it there as well. Decide to support the show on Patreon. Join the flock because we are growing rapidly. And also, quick side note, because I'm graduating and I have more time to spend on these videos, I have more time to spend on Patreon. All the Patreon prices actually have been lowered just because, guys, it's a good time of the year. The NFL draft is upcoming. And because the NFL draft is upcoming, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be talking about some of my favorite rookies across a few different positions here. Now, of course, if you're subscribed to the Dynasty channel, you've been hearing us talk about rookies all offseason now. But if you are just a subscriber to this main fantasy football channel, really, we've refrained talking from rookies. I haven't been uploading here that much just because we've been having so much fun playing Dynasty. Y'all know that's how I got started. Y'all know that's actually what this channel began as until it got switched over to a redraft channel. But yeah, let's dive into some of these rookies that I'm extremely excited about. And our first guy, I can almost guarantee you, I am going to be higher on him than anybody else you talk to. This is going to be Elijah Moore. Okay, so when we talk about Elijah Moore here, if you don't know him, he's a rookie wide receiver coming out of Ole Miss, and a few things that we look for at the wide receiver position. A, we make sure that these wide receivers are coming into the NFL at a respectable age, that they're either 20 or 21 years old, or in the case of Tylan Wallace or in the case of Devontae Smith, they have legit excuses on why they did not meet that age threshold coming into the NFL. Obviously, Tylan Wallace, the ACL injury. With a case like Devontae Smith, they can't blame the guy for playing with Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and Jalen Waddle. But here, Elijah Moore coming in to the NFL draft at 21 years old. That's the first box he wants to check. And I know if you've been watching our Dynasty videos, you're tired of hearing us talk about this, but a quick side note on why this is important. It's because if you see a wide receiver coming into the NFL draft that is maybe 23 years old, generally, yes, maybe that guy's a little bit more NFL ready, but you're not going to see the overall upside for him to continue to develop his game. And the perfect example is actually going to be looking at a DK Metcalf and AJ Brown versus a guy like Deebo Samuel, where we saw that DK Metcalf and AJ Brown had access to that elite level upside because they came in and they were already on the same playing field as Deebo Samuel. Yet the difference is two of these wide receivers came into the NFL at 20, 21 years old, and the other guy came in at 23 years old. So when you have that 2 extra years to continue to develop, to continue to just fill out your body, of course it's going to make a difference when you can go through and you can catch up if you're the DK Metcalf. And not only are you going to catch up because you started out on the same field, you're just going to surpass him by a great margin. So you love to see the younger wide receivers coming into the NFL because if they already have that talent, they can get so much better. And the other thing that you want to look at with these wide receivers is production, production, production. Now, this is going to be a difference between a rookie wide receiver, between a rookie running back. Now, y'all are tired of hearing me say this, but at the running back position, we need to see traits. At the wide receiver position, we need to see that college production. Specifically, we want to see it early on, but in the case of Elijah Moore, in 2019, what we actually had is we actually had that be his first season without AJ Brown, without DK Metcalf, without Dawson Knox, all on that Ole Miss roster. And yes, I know DK Metcalf missed a significant amount of games that year, but still, the fact that he comes into the season as a true freshman in the same wide receiver room as those two stud elite Ole Miss wide receivers. And Dawson Knox, I know that people don't want to bring him up in the same conversation, but it is noteworthy that another pass catcher on this team is making an impact on the real life field for the Buffalo Bills. So Elijah Moore, that's the first thing we need to point out, that yes, he doesn't have great production his true freshman year, but there's a solid reason for it. Now he goes to his true sophomore season after DK Metcalf, after A.J. Brown and Dawson Knox all leave Ole Miss. And what do we see then? What we see is we see Elijah Moore take a massive step up, where he then comes through with, I believe the stat was like 850 receiving yards, and the next best wide receiver on that team had under 200. It was something ridiculous. Maybe it was like 250, but still. Elijah Moore just straight up dominated the production at Ole Miss as soon as he got the opportunity. And then what you had is you had something ridiculous happen his true junior year. So when Elijah Moore is 20 years old, keep in mind, this is Ole Miss. This is the SEC. This is the best competition you are going to play in college football. And that's coming from someone that's rocking some Big 12 right here. That's rocking the UT. We can acknowledge the fact that you want these players coming from the SEC. You want the fact that they went up against top-end competition. But anyway, with Elijah Moore, what you had him averaging 150 receiving yards a game at 20 years old in the SEC. And this wasn't the 2019 LSU offense. This wasn't that powerhouse juggernaut. No. Did anybody hear about Ole Miss coming through and being a favorite for the national title this year? No, nobody was having that conversation because Ole Miss simply wasn't that productive. They didn't have that elite offense that blew everyone out of the water. Elijah Moore was playing in SEC against great competition with not the best quarterback play, and he was putting up 150 receiving yards a game. So then we are just excited. We are just over the moon about the production profile that you have for Elijah Moore, combined with the fact that he has the age coming in. Now, what we can also throw in with this is the fact that he goes to his pro day. And to be honest, while I loved Elijah Moore, I wasn't expecting him to come out here and have some elite 40-yard dash time. But no, that's exactly what happened. Elijah Moore comes out. He shows that he has speed to go along with this. So then Elijah Moore goes from a wide receiver that you're a little bit worried is going to be like a Tyler Boyd to someone that can be a significantly better version of that. Like he's literally like Tyler Boyd, yet you make him better in almost every way. So Elijah Moore, he's probably going to be going off the board in the middle of the second round of the NFL draft. And it's a little bit different at the wide receiver position compared to the running back position, where at the wide receiver position, first off, NFL draft capital, yes, it matters. I love talking about NFL draft capital. It really indicates what kind of opportunity the wide receiver is going to see on their NFL team, but it's not everything. You're not going to significantly ding down a rookie wide receiver because he gets drafted in the second round versus the first round like you would with a rookie running back. So anyway, let's get over to our next player. And this is actually going to be at the running back position. And this is a name that y'all probably have heard a decent amount of times this offseason because he's at the top of almost everybody's draft board. It's going to be Travis Etienne. Okay, so y'all know I made a reference to what we were looking for with these running backs coming into the NFL. If we want them to translate over to have fantastic production, we need 4 boxes checked. The first box we need checked is we need to see the NFL draft capital. Now, NFL draft capital at the running back position means so much. And the reason it means this much is because it indicates what type of opportunity the NFL team who selects them is going to represent with them. Because if you have a running back that's selected in the 4th round, yes, that running back can have all the talent in the world. They can be the next Aaron Jones. But most of the time, if they go on day 3, even if they are that talented, we understand the nature of the running back position. What you need is you need raw touches. And it's not like the cream always rises to the top with the running back position. We understand that contracts get in the way. We understand that NFL draft capital gets in the way. So you need to make sure the team has the investment into the player that dictates they're going to start at the very top of the depth chart. And that's the number one thing that you have to look for before we move on to anything else. After you check that box, what we are going to be moving on to next is we need to make sure that they have adequate size where they can handle a full down workload at the NFL level. Now, this is one of the question marks we had with Travis Etienne coming into the NFL. We didn't exactly know what the weight was going to be. We know he's a little bit of a taller running back. He's not exactly the Michael Carter Jr., but we were worried the weight wasn't going to be there. He was going to have a low BMI, something like Chuba Hubbard coming in with like an 18th percentile BMI. But no, Travis Etienne comes in and he weighs a respectable 200 plus. And that is a massive plus sign for Travis Etienne that he has an above average BMI. Now, of course, the third thing we look for is we look for the athletic profile. And this was never in question with Travis Etienne. Everybody and their mom knew that Travis Etienne was a track star, so that was never going to come into play. He checked that box right away, and he proved that again at his pro day. Now, the last thing we're looking for is pass catching ability. And yes, Travis Etienne had proved that he can catch passes coming out of the backfield his true junior year at Clemson. But the one thing that he proved coming back his senior season is that he can be not only an average NFL pass catching running back, but he can actually be an above average NFL pass catching running back. And I understand a lot of people want to say, but Mason, they kind of just schemed him open passes. They gave him a bunch of screens, yada, yada, yada. Guys, that is what you want. You want their coaching staff to be looking at Travis Etienne. You want Swaney to go, hey, this guy needs the ball. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. It's, in my opinion, maybe even better if they're calling up designing screenplays for Travis Etienne to highlight his pass catching ability. Now, of course, you like to see the dump offs as well, but Travis Etienne averaged 4 receptions a game his last year at Clemson. That is significantly higher than what you tend to see with these college running backs. So Travis Etienne checks that box at the same time. I'm all in on Travis Etienne. He's my running back 1 in the class. If you go over to Patreon, you're going to find that right now. Now, of course, when the draft kit comes out, he's going to be my running back 1 there. Now, yes, we are going to have to update that draft kit. We're going to have to update the rankings after the NFL draft. If Najee Harris goes to a significantly better landing spot, we can decide to change our minds. But for now, Travis Etienne is going to be our guy. All right, so now let's get to my quarterback that, to be honest, I am more excited about this quarterback for fantasy than almost all of them, especially considering the price you're going to spend. It's going to be Trey Lance. Okay, so Trey Lance, no, by no means is he an under-the-radar type player. Everybody knows that Trey Lance is going to be a top 5 drafted quarterback in this year's NFL draft. He is definitely going to be a top 10 overall draft pick, but there are a few question marks surrounding what kind of opportunity is he going to see right away. Now, I know a lot of people want to say, hey, he's only 20 years old. He's most likely going to be sitting year 1. He has a very small sample of starting games at the college level. Well, yes, I understand why you would get to that conclusion by seeing those few stacks. But what we also have to understand is you watch him during his pro day, you look at the stats that he had in college, the fact that he didn't throw a single interception, and right away, he's going to be able to come in and he is going to be able to make defenses completely change their scheme with what he can do on the ground. So I think that a lot of people who are worried that Trey Lance may not be starting year 1, I think they are a little bit just overthinking it, because I'm looking at Trey Lance, a quarterback that has elite rushing upside. I mean, he can be a Lamar Jackson. He can be a Jalen Hurts. Nobody's going to be surprised to see that happen. And to go along with this, instead of him being like Jalen Hurts and getting drafted in the 2nd round of the NFL draft, no, he's going to be drafted in the top 10 picks. He's a much better quarterback, a much better arm. A lot of people are going to make an argument that he has a better arm than Lamar Jackson. So I'm looking at Trey Lance going, you know what? Maybe he isn't the best NFL quarterback year 1. Maybe he's not a rookie coming in and playing at a Justin Herbert type level, but he doesn't need to be that elite fantasy asset, because like we saw with Jalen Hurts in his limited action last year, like y'all know, I was drafting Jalen Hurts in almost every dynasty startup draft last year, almost every dynasty rookie draft. What you need to see is the rushing upside. It's a cheat code in fantasy. I mean, we talked about it for years now. Now everybody's catching up. Everybody knows about this cheat code that you have with that rushing production, raising both your floor and your ceiling. But Trey Lance gives you exactly what you're looking for. All right, so now our last player is going to be at the wide receiver position, and this is probably going to be the most controversial because I know he's a very polarizing player, but it's going to be Rondale Moore. Okay, so yes, I'd say the name Rondale Moore, and everybody thinks the same thing. Everybody thinks elite athlete, but he's 5'7". And yeah, I mean, obviously you would rather Rondale Moore be the 6 foot, 210 pounds like you see with Terrence Marshall, like you see with some of those other prototypical wide receivers. But here in the case of Rondale, I think that it's a great thing he's coming into the NFL in 2021, because if he came into the NFL a very long time ago, if he came in during the time of the Brandon Marshall, those wide receivers that would just dominate at the catch point outside, Rondale Moore probably wouldn't be valued on an NFL roster like we're expecting him to be this season. He would probably fall to day 3. They'd be viewing him as a special teams type player. But simply, the NFL has changed. The NFL has decided to start viewing these players as guys that, no, they don't have to all win the same way. You can scheme some of these players open, and as long as they can generate separation, they don't have to win at the catch point. They can catch balls in the open field, and then if they have that elite athletic profile, if they have the elite playmaking, then they can go through, they can get a ton of yards after the catch, and Rondale Moore has just that. I mean, he is a elite athlete, and I know a lot of people are going to be saying, but Mason, you said at the very beginning of the video, wide receiver athleticism doesn't matter too much. What you want to see is you want to see age-adjusted production. But don't worry, guys. Rondale Moore has the definition of age-adjusted production. Literally over 100 total yards every game as a true 18-year-old freshman. Now, it doesn't get better than that. It just simply doesn't. And I know a lot of people are going to be down in the comment section saying, Mason, but Rondale Moore did not run real routes. But, guys, please understand, yes. I will admit Rondale Moore had a decent amount of screens at Purdue. And that's why we avoided Brian Edwards coming out of South Carolina last offseason, because we looked at a lot of that production. We went, I mean, yeah, it's a decent production profile, but a lot of it was on these kind of gimmick plays. And you can make the same argument with Rondale Moore up to a certain extent. If you want to go, but Mason, I mean, you can look, and 4 or 5 of those receptions a game, they were kind of off these gimmicky plays where Rondale Moore just made a bunch of things happen after the catch. Yeah, true, but he averaged 9 receptions a game. I mean, even if half of those were off of gimmicky plays, he still had a fantastic season in terms of what he did with the other real routes that he was running. Then throw in the fact that if he gets drafted to an NFL coaching staff that knows how to use him, say he goes to the Tennessee Titans, a coaching staff that has really proven that they know what to do with their players. He goes there in the 2nd round. I think that can unlock Rondale Moore, and I simply think that he has the upside to be someone that makes an impact day 1. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Of course, the NFL draft is going to change a lot of things, but please go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, and if you're interested in our draft kit, make sure you go support the show on Patreon. There you can find my full rookie rankings. There you can find pretty much everything.